Hello, everyone, and welcome to Themed Environments 101. I'm your host, Christopher Setzenary, and today we are going to be discussing the Reedy Creek Improvement District. This wasn't the video that I had planned to do today, or even to do in this slot. I've got a few others that I'm working on at the moment that I was planning to release prior to discussing the RCID and really development in general. But given the timely nature of this subject, I thought it was important to create and discuss today. So today is actually February 27th, 2023, and I don't normally date these videos, but I think it's important because Governor DeSantis just signed HB 9B, which is the bill that will take over the Reedy Creek Improvement District with a state-appointed board of basically commissioners that the governor will appoint, and will over the next 2 years start becoming the municipal authority for the Walt Disney World property. So, given that, then given the fact that this has been something kind of brewing and percolating over the past few years, now I think it's an important time to talk about it, and I wanted to make this today. So, with that said, please like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you guys find this subject interesting. So just to get started, let's talk a little bit about really what the RCID is, why the Reedy Creek Improvement District was even established in the first place, and then from there we talk a little bit about Disney's history in dealing with governmental municipalities. Really is kind of not really black and white, but there's some interesting areas that they've gone into in the past, particularly with Disney's America and things like that. So we'll get into all that. But the RCID is essentially a municipal services and governmental arm, really, of the Walt Disney Company, right? This was something that at the time of its establishment in 1967 made a lot of sense. Probably makes a lot less sense today, just given the direction that the property itself has gone and how Disney has decided to develop the Walt Disney World property here in Florida. Really, at the time of its establishment, Walt Disney really was more focused on what I say is an urban planning experiment than really a theme park project, right? If you think about Walt Disney World as a theme park, then having your own municipal permitting authority really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you think about it as an exercise in urban planning, it starts to come together. I say that because when Walt bought all of this land back in the 60s, right, first of all, I think the local municipalities probably didn't have the wherewithal or were well equipped to be able to provide just the basic infrastructure needs that a project of that size would have required. So, I mean, water, sewer, municipal services like police, fire, garbage collection, and even roadway infrastructure and things like that were probably less likely to be able to be executed on quickly from the Orange County government, Osceola County, Orlando, and kind of the various municipalities that had interest in this project. So with that being the case, it would make sense that at the time, the Walt Disney Company would need to be able to establish their own system for being able to not only develop and execute on the needs of actually building out a theme park, a city, and all kind of the required infrastructure needs within, but also do them in a timely manner. I think if it would have been something that would have been delegated to the county government or even the state government at the time, it probably would have taken much longer at a much higher cost than it would have. Obviously, what actually ended up happening is, the concept of Epcot and the concept of a new way of urban planning really never came to fruition, at least not in the way that maybe it may have if Walt had lived another 10 or 15 years even. that's, to me, really where the first fork in the road is for whether or not the RCID even makes sense, right? At the beginning it did, and it made a lot of sense as a government arm to manage and zone and provide utilities and infrastructure to Epcot, or what would have been Epcot. But then when that didn't happen, really once Epcot opened as a theme park, then I think at that point it says, okay, well, do we really even need this? Probably not. But by the same token, it's already established, so that's the process was already set for how to do projects on the Walt Disney World Resort property. And that's really just how Disney followed through on all of their projects from that point forward until today, or I guess until 2 years from now, really, which is how long the RCID has to finish up any current processes, close out those processes, and then begin creating, new processes with this now state-controlled board of appointed members. So with all of that, they ended up basically as this they've used the term quasi-government, and that's really what they were for a long time. And again, it was an important part of the development of this property and how it all came to be. Obviously, as it relates to taxes and how to fund those infrastructure projects, I think the important point to take away from that is that really Disney is able to fund those projects themselves, right? Disney pays taxes to the RCID. The RCID in turn funds infrastructure projects. Again, utilities are probably the biggest and maybe most expensive one there, but also fire, police, garbage pickup, electricity, all of that is all generated internally as kind of a separate ecosystem within the Walt Disney World property, outside of the Orange County, Osceola County, and even state of Florida government. They have always paid property taxes. That's, I guess, a good point to make, is that Disney's always had to pay property taxes to Osceola and Orange counties. But up to this point, they have not had to pay for, services, road infrastructure taxes and things, highway taxes, things like that generally go into these types of projects. So it'll be interesting to see where this all goes. Obviously, some of you who know me, some of you who may not, my background is in development. I spend most of my time day to day focused on developing projects, commercial real estate projects in Central and South Florida. I've been doing that for 10 years in kind of various capacities. Prior to that, I was in video production, and that's kind of why this channel really came to be. But I say all of that to make the point that this is something I'm very close to, and a topic that I feel that I can speak to at a pretty competent level, just understanding how this all comes together. And I've had the ability and the I guess you could call it pleasure of working with the RCID in the past to get various projects approved, permitted, what have you, within the boundary lines of the property that Disney owns and operates. And you can really see where the outlines of the RCID are, and they basically are a city essentially that manages and is the permitting authority and utility authority for the Walt Disney World property and complex, right? So that's really been up to this point the key factor in determining what they do and what their value is. I think it's also important to understand that, and politically maybe point has been made, but I think it's more nonsense than anything. The Reedy Creek Improvement District is not and has really, I don't think, ever been a yes man, if you will, for the Walt Disney Company. If anything, the RCID is, as it relates to permitting, engineering requirements, and things like that, a stricter municipality to deal with. They're a separate entity that has their own building code. And I guess on that point, the building code, the Epcot building code as it's known, is one that in general is a stricter and more focused building code than just the general Florida building code or really even any others that are out there, specifically because it is designed and made to regulate the creation, development, and construction, and even further along operation of themed environments projects. The RCID plays and has played an important role up to this point in the development of that property, and allowing Disney and really the kind of outside developers that have the opportunity to work with Disney to be able to build that property out. And they have done, projects that maybe otherwise wouldn't have happened. They've had some large scale solar projects that they've been able to do. Obviously all the parks, all the road infrastructure. It will be interesting to see where this all goes. As it relates to whether or not it really affects anyone visiting, I don't think it will. But as a matter of how this will affect Disney's ability to develop the property and sites going forward, it will be interesting to see. Generally, the process for development is you find a greenfield site, right? Greenfield meaning open, nothing there. You've got, no utilities, really nothing available to the site yet. And then, move forward with design. Sometimes you have to do land use and zoning changes, move forward with design, submittal for permits, and ultimately receive your building permit and go out and start construction. Ultimately, Disney's process for that has been internal since day one on the Walt Disney World property. What I find interesting is that anywhere else in any of their other parks and projects, Disney specifically has had sometimes a difficult time getting processes and projects approved by local municipalities. Partially, that's because, in California, when they were talking about Westcott, that really never ended up happening, right? When they were talking about Disney Sea in California, where the Queen Mary is now, that, of course, just wasn't able to happen. And in large part, those were because you have to have public approval. And really, you have to be able to move forward with public support on any project that you're doing in, what is considered a public municipality, like a town or a city. This unique setup that Disney has had up to this point has basically allowed them to get away from that and do it, again, all internally. But it'll be interesting to see just how they manage, how they deal with that. And there are other videos that I intend to do on development and get further into the development process as it relates to themed environments. The only negative really that I see from this is really one of optics. Again, I don't think it had to happen this way. I don't think that, the governor and the Disney Corporation and all that had to have such a kind of long drawn out fight over all of this. I think this could have been done in a much cleaner, seamless manner, but I guess it's politics and that's how it goes. So we'll see where this ends up. To me, this is a more of a political move, but one that was kind of bound to happen at one time or another. So with that all being said, if you've made it to this point, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We will be getting our Patreon up and running soon. And like I said, I intend to make more videos about development. It's my background. It's my kind of day-to-day profession. And I want to talk a little bit more about, some of Disney's previous development adventures or maybe misadventures, as well as some of the current projects that are going in, Epic Universe and even, globally around the world. There's some really interesting large mixed-use development projects that are coming through that include theme parks. So regardless, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.